Tonight on Joy News Prime, we are way ahead of almost a lot of countries in the world. That's according to Vice President Dr. Obinua Apia as he jumps to the defense of the new patriotic party and interventions of the Akufo-Addo administration in improving Ghana's economy.
The trade balance recorded a surplus for 5 successive years for the first time in over 30 years.
Meanwhile, a former finance minister believes the record of the new patriotic party administration is a poor one.
Mahama was very honest about the difficulties. We didn't seek to shift the blame. When, for example, we had to confront the energy crisis, we did not shift the blame, even though that crisis was not our making. But we did not shift it. We met it and tried hard and fix it. But we are dealing with a group that is pretending as if Ghana is an island.
Also tonight, there's no way the country will go back to the dark days of doomsday. Ministry of Energy denies claims of the minority in Parliament that Ghana could face another energy crisis.
Back to the days of take or pay, where the Ghanaian taxpayer is so much burdened, and also to ensure that the lights are on and then we keep the nation moving. Of course.
And tonight, Hajia Ramatu Mahama, wife of the late former Vice President Aliyu Mahama, dies at age 70. And don't forget that at 8 p.m. I'll hand it over to Charles and Oreku for Prime Business and Prime Sports. Charles, what's coming up in business?
Well, tonight an economist is calling for strict compliance with the country's forex rules as the Bank of Ghana moves to crack the whip on institutions and individuals flouting Ghana's forex index laws.
People should read this directive within the context of the fact that it is not just those engaging in price quotation that are liable for sanctions, but also those engaging in purchasing or patronizing these activities.
And in sports,
well, football fans in Kumasi are against the e-ticketing online approach ahead of the Super Clash, which kicks off this Sunday between Kumasi Asante Kotoko and Hartlepool.
With the online ticketing is very worrisome because how to get the validity of the ticket, you cannot be too sure.
It's not everybody that has a smartphone that necessarily can do that, because if you look at most of our local people who are interested in a local derby, most of them are not able to get access to the e-ticketing.
I am Blessed Sogah, and don't forget that we're on DSTV channel 421, GoTV channel 144. This is your home of independent, fearless and credible journalism. Stay for details.
Joy News Prime.
Now, we are way ahead of most countries in the world. That's according to Vice President Dr. Obinua Apia as he jumps to the defense of the new patriotic party administration and the interventions of President Akufo-Addo's government targeted at improving Ghana's economy. Ghana is experiencing its slowest growth since 1975, a situation that is mounting pressure on government to redeem its pledge of transforming the lives of the citizenry. Well, delivering his address at the Millennium City here in the Greater Accra region, the Vice President outlined a raft of measures some moments ago that he believes will turn around the situation of the Ghanaian economy.
The trade balance recorded a surplus for 5 successive years for the first time in over 30 years. We recorded surplus for 5 successive years. The trade balance was in deficit between 2013 and 2016, but moved from a deficit of 1.7 billion in 2016 to a surplus of 1.1 billion in 2017, a larger surplus of 1.8 billion in 2018, and an even larger surplus of 2.2 billion by 2019. The impact of COVID-19 has seen a reduction in the surplus to 2.04 billion in 2020 and a further reduction to 1.1 billion in 2021. Nevertheless, this is still a much stronger performance than the trade deficit of 1.7 billion recorded in 2016, which, ladies and gentlemen, the positive trade balances resulted in a narrowing of the current account deficit as a percentage of GDP between 2017 and 2019, but a subsequent widening of the deficit in 2020 and 2021 as a result widening of the deficit in 2020 and 2021 as a result of COVID-19. Even that, notwithstanding COVID-19, our current account position between 2017 and 2021 is much stronger than that between 2013 and 2016. Improvements in the current account performance and increased capital inflows have helped to boost Ghana's international reserves. The data shows that gross international reserves increased from 6.1 billion in 2016 to 8.4 billion 4 months of import cover by 2019, and subsequently to 9.6 billion 4.4 months of import cover at the end of 2021. By February 2022, the gross international reserves had decreased marginally to 9.5 billion for 4.3 months of import cover. So in terms of gross international reserves, our economic situation is still much stronger than what it was in the 2016 period. Now we come to the fiscal balance.
Well, there are a number of reactions that are greeting the Vice President's announcement. Earlier today, I had a conversation with former Deputy Finance Minister Fifi Fiavi-Kwete, who is of the view that the New Patriotic Party's management of the economy is a poor one.
You know, the sad part is not the fact that the economy goes through difficulties. Every economy now and again goes through some difficulty. The sad part is that when you have in the leadership of a country, let's just say the group that simply is not candid enough to accept what the truth is. You saw, for example, that when we had difficulties between the period, let's say 2013, 2014, President Mahama was very honest about the difficulties. We didn't seek to shift the blame. When, for example, we had to confront the energy crisis, we did not shift the blame, even though that crisis was not our making. But we did not shift it. We met it and tried hard and fix it. But we are dealing with a group that is pretending as if Ghana is an island. I mean, Ghana is surrounded by so many countries, and all those countries never experienced the levels of what you call the collapse that Ghana saw as a result of, in the year 2020. I mean, growth in Cote d'Ivoire, growth in Togo, growth in Benin, Nigeria, Burkina Faso, never was at the level that our growth was. Now, so to simply use COVID as an excuse, simply showing that you are not showing even the level of honesty, the level of conduct that is needed. And that is the number one trait that is needed for a leader.
But Fifi, many would challenge you on that claim, particularly when the argument is that and when I say you, the NDC did not take off on a clean slate. You had a pretty bad record when you were exiting office, and the New Patriotic Party at least made some significant gains, and now we are recording a slump in the economy. So it's not as though it was a clean slate when the president took off.
But that itself is another big lie, because if you will recall, in 2016, the cedi depreciated by less than 9%. Okay, we are talking about a group that today, with all the massive oil revenues that they are getting, still have the cedi depreciating at 15%. In 2016, it is true that GDP was not very high, but every single person who was following the Ghanaian economy knew that work had already been done that was going to ensure that GDP was going to grow at a minimum of 8% in 2017, which was known not just in Ghana, but actually was known all over the world. The World Bank, IMF, the investors, the credit rating agencies, all of them knew that Ghana's economy, work had been done to ensure that growth was going to be a minimum of 8% in 2017. A massive talk of investment, I mean, it was handed over to the government that was in place. So you should not just limit it to what GDP was in 2016. You should be looking at the amount of work that was done to ensure that the growth in 2017 was going to rebound and reach a very high level. But of course, there again, I talk about the lack of candor and the lack of honesty.
Well, so that's Fifi Kweti's position there, which resonates with what the majority members of the NDC think about the economy. But there's a need for us to also get the reactions live on ground and get you what some patrons and those who are attending the event today, when the Vice President delivered the address, and what their impression is about today's event. Parker Wilson, my colleague, has been interacting with some persons on the at the event grounds. He joins us with more. Parker, what more can you report from where you are?
That the government has been able to manage the economy so well in spite of the shocks by the COVID-19 pandemic and also the Russia-Ukraine war. The Vice President has been making the point that there are a number of factors, and he agrees that our fiscal debt has gone up, and as a matter of fact, he agrees to that proposition. But he believes that there are a number of things that accounted for it. They had to borrow to fix some bridges, to construct the Pokwase interchange, among others. Again, some universities as well. And even in the midst of COVID-19, the government employed a number of nurses across the country. One of the things that he said was that this government has been very sensitive towards the plight of the ordinary Ghanaian, basically because during the COVID-19 pandemic, they managed to provide free water, free electricity, and also free food for the ordinary Ghanaian. And so it is not misleading for anyone to say that this government is not sensitive to the plight of the ordinary Ghanaian. And that has been his position. And he says that the economy is very resilient, is very strong, and this government will continue to ensure that they do what is right to better the lives of the ordinary Ghanaian. He admitted clearly that times are hard, we are going through a number of challenges, we are in economic crisis, but the government is still doing something to help improve the situation. I will be speaking to some of the members here. I see the former member of parliament here, Ben Abdallah. He used to be the chairman of the Constitutional and Legal Affairs Committee. Ben Abdallah is here. Honorable, let me engage you briefly. The Vice President has been speaking. For you, what has been your takeaway, sir?
My takeaway has been good. He has been very impressive, as usual. At first, I believe a lot of people didn't know the economic fundamentals that we have at the moment. But with this lecture, which has been very impressive, which has been very educative, which has been very informative, a lot of people now have become abreast with the economic fundamentals that the Vice President has just spoken about. So you realize that in all the economic history of this country, at any point in time that you have MPP in power, MPP does far better than the NDC.
The argument has been that, I mean, the economy has already taken a nosedive before the COVID-19 pandemic and then Russia-Ukraine war. And so it cannot be accurate to largely blame COVID-19 and the Russian-Ukraine war on the crisis we are currently facing.
If you had studied the performance of MPP from 2017 to 2020, you will have realized that MPP was doing fundamentally well in so far as all the economic indices or indicators are concerned. The economy decided to have a little nosedive when COVID-19 hit. COVID-19, the ripple effect of COVID-19 is global. It's not only restricted to Ghana. Everybody across the world is crying. The pictures that the Vice President showed goes to show, I mean exactly or precisely that even in the United States of America, which is considered as one of the industrialized and developed nations, is suffering. UK is suffering. France is suffering. And the suffering has been exacerbated by the Russian-Ukraine war. And this is a notorious fact that every well-meaning person ought to take note of. It is only those who have decided not to take judicial notice of what is happening across the globe. That
well, Supaka Wilson there, getting reactions on that. We'll bring you updates in our subsequent reports. But it's time now to also assess what it is that the Vice President has been talking about. Joining us now is economist and Dean of the University of Cape Coast Business School, Professor John Gatchi. Thanks, sir, for your time. So you've heard the Vice President. He says we're underestimating the achievements of this government. Do you have figures that back this or prove otherwise?
Well, I think it's the job of the government to provide figures, and then we interrogate the figures. But you can see clearly that this lecture has a particular purpose. It has two purposes. One, you will recall that respected international institutions, such as the World Bank, openly indicated that we cannot blame all our economic difficulties on COVID-19, that we were suffering this economic distress before COVID-19. And I believe that didn't go well with the government. It has some hanging effect on the government and other people within the country, people who are respected, are saying the same thing. So I think government is working very hard to ensure that they stick to their statement that it is the COVID-19 that has actually destroyed everything. And
in fact, just on the statement you're making, the Vice President talks about that. He says the concern is not about the COVID. The focus has got to do with the government that is managing the economy at the time Ghana is faced with this economic crisis. He believes that they have a superior team, a superior plan that can take us out of this.
Well, I think Ghanaians don't see it that way. This lecture, Ghanaians were expecting that the lecture will inspire them, give them the hope to actually hope that the escalation of price hike in the country, there is some clear solution to this thing. But the Vice President only mentioned those things without providing what they are really doing to bring down food prices, to bring that, those items that he has mentioned. He only concluded by saying that it is happening in other countries. It's as if it's happening in other countries, therefore keep quiet. And I believe that is very unfortunate. A great opportunity missed. And of course, we can also say that some of the things that the Vice President say are not accurate. You know that we enacted the Fiscal Responsibility Act in 2018, pegging the deficit at 5%, but you know that in 2019, the actual deficit of Ghana was 7.5 and primary balance was negative 1.8. These are very clear reports that the government itself provided to IMF. Therefore, it is very clear that prudent financial management of the country was missing. In 2018-2019, that resulted in breaching the Fiscal Responsibility Act just within 1 year, and those issues are very significant to discuss.
Sorry, it's unfortunate we don't have much time, but just to take your thoughts on this, some say that the signs were clear. In fact, under the erstwhile administration, we had crossed the debt distress point, which the IMF says we've crossed the 70% threshold. So if that's the case in terms of how distressed we were in the past, it goes without saying that we couldn't have sustained that trajectory with the Fiscal Responsibility Act. Your takes on that? Your take on that?
The Fiscal Responsibility Act has a provision that says that when you are in a period of pandemic, then you suspend those rules. But what I'm saying is that we breached that rule by 2.5 percentage points within 1 year before COVID-19. So which means that we are on a path of destruction long before COVID-19. And I mentioned two important fiscal indicators. The primary balance was negative in 2019 before we entered 2020 when COVID-19 started in March thereabout. So it's clearly we cannot blame all the difficulties on COVID-19. It is also attributed to poor financial management, not adhering to fiscal rules that we have actually covered for ourselves. That is why, and we need to embrace that and resolve the problems. As we speak right now, Ghanaians are expecting that the fundamentals as have been described, price stability as the fundamental of the economy, broken into three parts, price, interest rate stability, exchange rate stability, and inflation, all have indicated that fundamentals is weak, and we know the causes of some of these weaknesses in the fundamentals. We know why prices of food items are going up. We know why we have agriculture policy. Those agriculture policies that we put in place are not actually resonating well in economic management. And we need to accept that and begin to rework on our agricultural policy. Why should we be importing most of those items? And because there is depreciation and some problems somewhere in the world, we are not able to produce some of the items ourselves. That is what Ghanaians want to hear. And that is missing completely in his lecture. So the lecture did not focus on providing solution, but trying to defend the government that it is because of COVID and it is because of Russia, Ukraine, which I do not think that Ghanaians buy into. All right, then. I'm grateful, Professor John Gatchi, for spending some time with us. Let's stay on the economy because cocoa, as Ghana's major foreign export, is the backbone of the country's economy. As a commodity that generates millions of income for the country, one would expect ordinarily that laborers in this essential fruit sector will earn a good wage, but that is not the case. In today's episode of the Living Standards series, Love FM's Emmanuel Bright Kweku gauged the economic situation of some cocoa farmers and careers at Gatchi Group.
Cocoa na eteno beko akodono sikaro kagoto endro egu afu no kra no na yasem
Cocoa money aye no mfaso bia mma first na ye
Most youth hailing from the northern part of Ghana move down south in hope for greener pastures. Abdul Rashid may be one of the over thousands who are yet to break the shackles of financial constraints after he moved down south. After his secondary education at Boko in the Upper East region, Rashid returned to his aged father at Gatchi Group in the Ashanti region to take up his cocoa farming business.
Boy kakra papa na bedoye to boy mama ko school na timi USS na ono so wabre.
My father started this cocoa farming business. He used the money he got to cater for my secondary education. But now he's grown, so I've taken up the job. These dried cocoa beans can be here for almost a week without I gaining any money, unless I borrow money to transport them and use the little I get to pay up the debts. Cocoa, as a golden commodity, provides livelihood for over 700,000 farmers in the southern tropical belt of Ghana. Rashid hoped the cocoa farming business, which catered for all his secondary education expenses, would do same now. But times are not the same anymore. Recent inflation in the country is crumbling his cocoa farming business.
Cocoa na eteno beko akodono sikaro kagoto endro egu afu no kra no na yasem because that time na cocoa no beso ye ni sika bia e be dey ye betun dia gu afu no cocoa no mba ya ye ni sika bia ye betun
The money to even buy fertilizer is even a problem. Until the cocoa is harvested, we cannot get any money for fertilizer. And by the time we harvest the cocoa, the money we earn will be used to pay up the debts. I used to harvest 15 bags, but now I can only harvest 5 bags. Petrol prices are even expensive too.
Petrol more than then I got to petrol. Say we go for now. Phone was 10 acres. Guess it was 5 gallons be and Sunday to me was 1 gallon beyond and 450. And no, you know, again say.
Rashid is not alone in the cocoa farming business. His brother, Isa Abbas, joined him from the north to continue plowing their father's over 10 acres of cocoa farm together. He anticipated a good living condition down south. However, proceeds from the farm are not enough to support his family of 3.
By Santamam say cocoa jima kakra na ya de e be sika atua akọ school na
I came down south to earn some cash to continue my education, but it appears where I were is better. I have no other job to fend for myself and family. I rely on this cocoa farming business.
Well, let's turn our attention now to the banking sector. Former managing director of defunct Capital Bank, Reverend Fitzgerald Odonko, has told an Accra High Court that he did not approve the payment of an amount of some 27.5 million cedis to the founder of the bank, William Ato-Essien. He said that he believed the transaction was not in the interest of the bank. Reverend Odonko and the bank's founder, William Ato-Essien, and businessman Dr. Tete Nete have been slapped with 26 charges, including stealing sums worth over 260 million cedis. Court correspondent Joseph Akable has the rest in this report.
Prosecutors allege that the former MD between June 2015 and October 2016 aided Mr. Essien to appropriate a total of 27.5 million, which was conveyed in jute bags in the name of business promotion payments. Reverend Odonko on Thursday mounted a witness box to tell his side of the story. He told the court the decision to pay the said amount was approved by the board of Capital Bank. The former Capital Bank MD insisted that he was not in support of the payment. He has also been accused of aiding Mr. Essien to cause the transfer of 120 million cedis of the liquidity support amount to All Time Capital Limited, an investment management and advisory firm. 100 million of this amount was further transferred to MC Management Services, while the remaining 20 million was transferred to Pronto Construction and Supplies Limited. The 100 million cedis was said to have been received by MC Management Services and subsequently represented by Dr. Tete Nete to the Bank of Ghana as the initial capital of Sovereign Bank. Reverend Odonko told the court that he did not know Dr. Tete Nete and only met him when the case was filed in court. On the said transfer of Capital Bank funds, he said it was a decision by the board and the Treasury Department of the defunct bank was better placed to respond to it. The case has been adjourned to April 28.
Well, still to come on Joy News Prime, Hajia Ramatu Mahama, wife of the late former Vice President Aliyu Mahama, dies at age 70. We'll return shortly after this break. And you're welcome back. The Ministry of Energy is refuting claims by former Minister of Power, Dr. Obinua Apia, that the country will return to the dark days of long-drawn power outages, popularly referred to as doomsday. The minority had cautioned that if urgent steps are not taken to address the country's generation capacity, Ghana could face another energy crisis. However, the Ministry of Energy has denied that claim and says that cannot be the case. Kofi Abrifa Afina is communication specialist at the Ministry of Energy.
A lot of IPPs were signed. And these IPPs were signed essentially on the back of take or pay, which plunged Ghana into some much more economic crisis. So what this government has done is to engage in a review of some of these existing power purchase agreements, because some of these were arbitrarily signed. You have excess, but you keep on signing. So what the Energy Ministry, under the able leadership of Dr. Matthew Opoku Prempeh, is seeking to do is to renegotiate some of these things, some of these existing power purchase agreements, and then also prudently add to our generation mix. So we are on course. It's a very much a process, and we want to assure Ghanaians that everything that is being done is in the interest of the Republic of Ghana to ensure that, one, we have value for money. We are not going back to the days where the Ghanaian taxpayer is so much burdened, and also to ensure that the lights are on and then we keep the nation moving. Of course, sometimes there will be isolated cases of power outages. I mean, because of some still challenges in our generation, transmission, and distribution value chain. But just like any machine, I mean, we are ensuring every day assiduously that all of these things are sorted out.
Also, it's time for us to expand this conversation. Fortunately, we're joined by the former Power Minister, Dr. Kwabena Donkor, who's joining us to provide some clarity on this matter as well. Thank you, sir, for your time here on Joy News Prime. Now, what we do know is that government says they've added on to the generation capacity. In fact, as we speak, they claim that we've exceeded. I mean, our peak demand is somewhere around 3,000 megawatts of power, and yet our capacity is way above that, into 5,000 megawatts of capacity. If that's the case, then it appears that the predictions you are making that we could face another challenge may not be true. What's your take on that?
First of all, let me state that I am unhappy when I'm pitted against a public servant.
Well, it's not necessarily the case. The statement that we have, the statement from the Ministry of Energy mentions your name. They are categorical on that. Right.
Yes, excuse me. Let me state that I will prefer one of the deputy ministers or a minister, a colleague policy maker, a colleague politician. Having said that, what did I say? All I said was that if we do not add new generation to our available capacity, we'll stand a chance of going into load shedding in 2 to 3 years. That was my statement, the crux of my statement, that if we do not add to generation, one of the first the current minister said when he became the minister was the need for additional generation. And anybody involved in policy, instead of trying to justify statements because it's coming from one camp or the other, knows that we need additional generation. And this whole myth of having 5,000 plus megawatts, it's for the uninitiated. I'll give you an example. On February 15th, our peak demand was 3,437 megawatts, thereabout. Our available capacity only had 180 megawatts to spare on that day. There is a world of difference between available capacity and installed capacity. Look, the fact that your car has 200 kilometers on the speedometer does not mean we are going to operate the car or we're going to drive the car 200 meters. That's it, kilometers per hour. That's it. Install capacity. No plant is meant to run fully on installed capacity. If you take the Akufo-Sumbo Dam, for example, it has an installed capacity of 1,020 megawatts. The reasonable thing to do in running the dam is to run it between 600 to 800 megawatts. Other than that, the reservoir will be compromised in the course of the year, the dry season. So let's educate ourselves and know the real difference between available capacity and installed capacity.
And on what basis are you making this prediction? Is it a question of generation or installed capacity? Where are you coming from with your point?
I'm talking of available capacity.
Right.
I just gave you a specific date.
Right.
That the spare, the gap available was only 180 megawatts on 15th of February. That was the difference between demand, which is peak load, and available capacity. So if any of our plans had gone down that day, we would not have had power for the whole country. So all I'm saying, and it is not rocket science to know that we are expanding our industrial base. His Excellency the President is all over the world touting for investment. Investment comes with increased demand for energy. In any case, the data, Energy Commission, says we need to increase our generation by between 7% to 15% every year. That is the growth in demand.
Right.
And therefore, if our available capacity is what it is today, and there is the call to look at increased generation. Look, I saw the statement. They were talking about the Amandi plant. The Amandi IPP was negotiated whilst I was at the ministry. Early Power was the outturn of the GE 1000 project. You remember that? So these are things we went on. Fortunately, government is a continuum.
Right.
And so some of the plans have come on stream.
Okay.
Others are not yet fully on stream. So there is a need to bring those ones on stream as well as adding new generation.
Because we don't have all of the time, briefly, sir, the concern out there is that the predictions you are making sets a double standard, particularly when you announced during your time that we had ended doomsday. So in what context were you making that announcement?
I mean, the statement you just made is equivalent to intellectual diarrhea. We're talking about 2015. Demand is not static. If you create equilibrium in 2015, that equilibrium, we don't expect it to stand in 2022, 2023, 2025. It is intellectual. It is proof intellectual.
I guess would have to wrap it up here. But if you look at the figures, clearly the projection is that in 2022, looking at the rate at which we're going, you referred to our peak demand at the time you were leaving, almost peaking at 3,000 megawatts.
I'm not talking about at the time I was leaving. I'm talking of 15 February 2022. This was the peak demand, and this was what was available.
Okay. Doc, would have to do this conversation again. I'm grateful that you've been able to join us here on Joy News Prime. Thank you. Now, we know that sources close to the family of the Mahamas have actually confirmed the death of Hajia Ramatu Mahama, wife of the late Vice President of Ghana under the John Agyekum Kufuor administration, Alhaji Aliu Mahama. Now, we know that according to reports, she died at the Kolebu Teaching Hospital in Accra this afternoon after she was admitted on Monday. Her son, who doubles as the Member of Parliament for Yendi in the northern region, has actually posted this particular statement on Facebook, which we bring to you now, indicating what the details are. And we have that right on the screens for you as you have it there. He states very clearly that it is with a deep sorrow that I announce the passing of my beloved mum, the former Second Lady of the Republic, Hajia Ramatu Aliu Mahama. She passed on peacefully in Accra at the Kolebu Teaching Hospital earlier this afternoon. The family has lost a great pillar. Burial and funeral rites will be conducted in accordance with Islamic traditions. Further information will be provided in due course. And that's the statement that we got from Farouk Aliu Mahama earlier today. We'll be watching that space and bring you some updates in our subsequent bulletins. But now, poor access to roads to newly constructed Konongo districts and Sewa regional hospitals in the Ashanti region have delayed the operationalization of the facilities. The health facilities are part of 5 districts and regional hospitals under the construction to help improve health infrastructural delivery in the region. But they've missed their completion date by about 5 years. Nana Yaojima has visited the community and comes through with this report.
Aerojet Invest, the principal contractor on the 3 hospital projects in Tepa, Konongo and Sewua was in litigation with subcontractors, which partly accounted for long delay in completion of the hospitals. Work resumed after government's intervention about 2 years ago, leading to completion of the 50-bed Konongo hospital. But the hospital, which is expected to reduce pressure on existing health facilities in the area, remains closed due to poor access roads. The road is bumpy and dusty for motoring. Ashanti Regional Minister Simon Osei-Mensah says the roads will have to be fixed for the hospital to be opened.
We are waiting for the completion of the access route to the hospital. The contractor promises the end of March that he was going to complete, but unfortunately it's not still completed. Hopefully, I give myself, those who went with us, I said I was giving myself up to June ending because of some of the financial difficulties and non-payment to contractors.
On a visit to the area, equipment of road contractors were found on site, but there was no work ongoing. Some drains are fixed, but it is unclear when contractors will return to site. The $63 million Sewua Regional Hospital project, situated on a 30-acre land, is 99% complete. But there are challenges with power supply and the road network to the facility.
The problem is also with access road and then power. ECG is going to build a new substation for them because the current transformer is not adequate for the hospital because of the many equipment that they have. So there are 2 main issues associated with that of Sewua. But the hospital itself is completed, and we are giving them asphalt. Initially it was ordinary bitumen surface. So we are going to do asphalt so that it will prolong the lifespan of the roads within the hospital.
Drainage system on the Sewua road is halfway fixed. Some equipment of contractors remain abandoned on site. Residents are unhappy with the pace of work. They say contractors have not been up at the site since January. We thought under the Akufo-Addo government this road will be fixed, but the contractor keeps packing out. The Kumawu and Fomena district hospitals, according to the regional minister, faced financial constraints which have been resolved. Mr. Osei-Mensah says work on the remaining hospitals, including Aferi Military Hospital, will soon be completed.
So that is also going on. Kumawu is now also ongoing. Some of the plans have been changed. The prefab initially that was being used, now they are using concrete blocks in some of the structures. We will visit there before the end of this month, as well as Fomena. Then the Afari, yes, is also the problem with the Afari was similar to that of Fomena. They were all financial issues which have been resolved. You remember they wanted to charge additional $38 million. The Minister for Health was able to negotiate with them, which came down to $19 million. The last time I spoke with the minister, they were finalizing with the financial arrangement, and as soon as that is done, they will soon finish the Afari because that is also about 90% complete.
For Joy News, Nanaya Ojima, Kumar.
Now, the mother of the missing Lands Commissioner staff has made an emotional appeal for the state to assist in funding her daughter. We know that the Rodaline Amwako Dako 33 has been missing since last year. Her husband, a lecturer at the Petroleum Department of the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, Dr. Wilberforce Nkrumah Agre, has been standing trial at the Kumasi High Court on kidnapping and deceit of a public officer in relation to this development. My colleague Ohemin Tewia has more in the following report.
Cecilia Obinua Apia, who sat through court proceedings for the first time since the disappearance of her daughter, came face to face with her accused son-in-law in court. Addressing the media whilst in tears after court hearing, she said it has not been easy sitting through court proceedings.
Very emotional. In fact, I never thought this day would come. Me sitting in a case involving my own daughter. I didn't think it was anything that should be near me. But here I am in the middle of events. In fact, I don't know what to do. I want Rodalyn, and Ghanaians should help me to find Rodalyn. Wherever she is, she's in Ghana, I know, or outside Ghana. Anybody that has seen a lady walking even wayward, anywhere, anyhow, and they are not sure of her location, should report such a person to the police. Perchance it is Rodalyn.
Madam Obinua Apia is hopeful her daughter will be found alive. During Tuesday's hearing, State Attorney Edward Yirinchisam pleaded for a short adjournment after counsel for Dr. Agri and the third accused person, Justice Apia, told the court they were served late with an important document that the state want to rely on during trial. The court then adjourned hearing to April 12, 2022 to pave way for case management conference and subsequently trial to begin. Madam Obinua Apia made a passionate appeal to Ghanaians to help find her daughter whilst heaping praises on friends of Rhoda, made up of mainly colleagues of the missing Rodalyn and her classmates, for fighting for justice for the mother of two.
I want to appreciate every Ghanaian that is making efforts for us to find Rhoda, wherever she is. And I know and I believe that the good Lord will help us to find and locate where Rodalyn is. My plea to all Ghanaians is that if anybody knows the whereabouts of Rodalyn, they should not hesitate to inform the police. My heart's desire is that it's a mother who should take care of the upbringing of her children. So Rodalyn should come back and take care of her children.
From Kumasi, for Joy News, Ohime reporting.
Now, the AMA has effected the arrest of 4 persons at Old Fadama for operating pan latrines, giving its adverse impact on the health of residents. The AMA in 2010 outlawed it. However, despite several warnings to discontinue its operations, the culprits were running the latrines. Michael Ashale has the rest of the story.
The team of sanitation officials acted based on a tip-off from one of their supervisors, head of the Environmental Health and Sanitation Department of the AMA, Florence Kuchi, led the operation.
What's it? O tank one, he found our tank no. Uni tank mukogu bowl mu. Inti mu peja mo de ko hen. Mu de ko gu hen.
Obedian shuna ile ko gu.
Obedian shuna mu de ko gu. Mimi the Florence ya Florence. Please call one of the police officers for me. Inti se si ane wa hono say. Ya pesa wo sisa oniema yi. Ya be pick o ya do be ko office. Since 2010, AMA passed a law that everybody operating a pan latrine should cease operating a pan latrine. We are all moving into the usage of a non-contaminated toilet. But it has come to our notice that people around the Old Fadama enclave, some of them are still operating the pan latrine. We have tried as much as we can. Anytime we arrest them, we take them and go. They go and come back. So this morning, we are picking them one after the other. Please don't allow him to move out. Don't allow him to move out. No. Don't allow him to. No. Don't allow him to move out. So we are taking him to the. Already we've taken some to the office. So we are picking him.
There's a second one up here.
Yes. There's also another one.
Another one where the other gentleman was also picked up. I mean, describe what a pan latrine really is.
So pan latrine is a latrine that people use a basin instead of a septic tank or a water closet for flushing. They use a bucket or a basin, so people defecate inside. When the basin is full, somebody come to lift it and carry it, and then go to either dump it inside the sea or in any nearby drain in the night.
Ironically, the adverse effect of this covert operation is there for all to see.
Can you see it?
I see it.
Yes, so that is the toilet just there. So when they flush, everything just come out. And look at how the place is nasty. And people are working in there. Abba.
So what you see is an island of fecal matter.
Florence Kuchi says these facilities in particular belong to state security men. She tells Joy News several attempts in the past 4 years to halt the operation has proven futile.
Do you know, we are doing away with open defecation. And what they are doing is a galvanized open defecation, which we are not going to allow to be. And first of all, the people that are helping us to even keep the laws of the country, they are the same people that are flouting the laws. Ask who is the owner of this toilet. Ask the guy who is the owner of this toilet.
Who is the owner of the place?
Soldier man.
A soldier man?
Yes.
I mean, who is he? Do you know his name? What rank? You don't know his name? But he's supposed to be your boss.
My boy is a policeman.
Your boss is a policeman. So which is which? A military man or a policeman?
This is a military man. The other one is for a policeman.
Okay, so there are two here. That's a clarification. So one policeman, one military man. Very dangerous, I want to believe. But these are supposed to be state security men who are supposed to be helping you clamp down on this.
Now, Africa is taking a giant step towards developing its own COVID-19 vaccine with a presentation of an $800,000 sequencing equipment to the Gatchi Memorial Institute for Medical Research. This equipment will help in identifying the various genomes of the virus in Ghana to help give the Africa CDC a fair idea about the possible types of the variants that we are recording, and also to issues relating to containing the virus. Now, we know that that's a step closer to the development of vaccines as well. Now, John News' Samuel Kujo Brace has more in this report.
According to the World Health Organization, Africa's total COVID-19 cases as of today is 8,219,644, with some 170,270 deaths. In the height of the pandemic, the continent was looking everywhere for vaccine support from all around the world to support its people. This exposed how unprepared we are at dealing with such outbreaks. But the program lead for the pathogen genomics at the Africa CDC, Dr. Sophonias Tesema, speaking in an exclusive interview with Joy News at the sidelines of the presentation exercise, explained how close we are to developing our own COVID-19 vaccines.
This will take us one step closer to understanding our pathogens in the design of diagnostics, vaccines, and therapeutics. In order to design a vaccine, we need to know what pathogens do we have. And the sequencing capacity actually gives us the potential to know, the capacity to know what kind of pathogens do we have. So this is part of the vaccine development process.
He explained how Africa devised its own strategy to increase its sequencing output.
And in our network, the University of Ghana, Gatchi Medical Research Institute, is a regional sequencing hub.
And that's all we have for you here on Joy News Prime. My name is Blessed Sogah. Don't forget that we have more coming your way shortly. Stay with us on the Joy News channel.